All right, welcome to Halitics. I'm Hal Ginsberg. It is Tuesday, and we've got a special Tuesday for you with Arlen Grossman, our big picture report pundit writer. Arlen, how are you today?
I'm doing just fine, Hal. It was nice having a holiday, and we kind of put the show off till today, and that works for me.
Works great for me, and you sound really good, and I can hear you clear as a bell, and I assume I'm sounding good to you. We think we've got our
Yes,
audio issues ironed out.
let's hope
Hopefully,
so.
no more tech issues with Arlen. So I don't always put my promo slides up for my programs, for our programs, Arlen, but I thought people should see we are going to be starting with the issue of age. Are some of our politicians simply too old, including the party's likely standard bearers next year? And you can see venerable or decrepit. I was a little concerned people might think I meant you and I, Arlen, are the ones venerable and decrepit. I considered maybe putting an X or something through our pictures because it could be that would be the interpretation. But I actually meant the three politicians there: the president, Joe Biden, of course, the former majority leader, current minority leader in the Senate, of course, Mitch McConnell. I played a video from him last week. We may get to that again. And California's Senator Feinstein, she is, I believe, a nonagenarian. Arlen, is she 90? You might know that. I don't know.
She might be. I think she's if not, she's on the cusp.
And you're wearing that purple cap. Is that to try to cover up a spot where you're less hirsute, shall we say, follically challenged, as in commemoration of our oldsters program, or just for the heck of it? I mean, usually you
Well,
don't wear a hat,
actually,
Arlen. As you can see in the picture there, where you're looking smiling, you are hatless.
yeah, I'm purposely wearing the hat for color. I noticed at our initial meetings it was kind of gray, and my beard and all my hair is gray. So I'm just giving us a little more color.
Ah, well, I like the purple. I often use purple in my slides to highlight various aspects of the program, including the squares or the rectangles around our featured I don't know, topics there, McConnell and Feinstein, because purple stands out. It really does. It's the royal color, Arlen.
Interestingly enough, this hat I obtained when I was in Billings, Montana earlier in the year and saw a minor league baseball game uh, there. And they have a minor league team called, I think it's the Mud Hat. I could be wrong about that, but this is their hat. And it's fun. We had a great time. It's a very entertaining. They treat the fans really, with a lot of fun stuff and contests and games, and it was really an entertaining evening.
Yeah, no question. Minor league baseball, I think, has a lot of advantages. Kind of like spring training. They don't take these 2 minute breaks between every inning and half inning, which is incredibly frustrating. Maybe the audio level isn't quite as high as at major league games. So there's some real pluses. Games go by quickly. So yes, I am a big fan as well of the minor league and
Yes.
spring training games. That's not what we're here to talk about, though we can always get to it. We can talk about anything, especially on the Free for All Fridays. I do want to just comment briefly on the numbers. Arlen, you were concerned a little bit about our reach. And I do note that a couple of my programs last week got into the triple digits, including well over 500 for my Thursday show. I'm not quite certain why that is. I'm trying to figure that out with an edit, with an analytics. Maybe the titles, I'm not really clear, but for some reason or other, I have been reaching a few more people. I'm really pleased about that. I do hope, by the way, that we can continue this. The way you can help me out, if you're watching right now, click like, click subscribe. Obviously, the more folks, the better, from my perspective, and hopefully from yours as well. Here's one of maybe my new listeners. I'm not sure if Ed's going to be back again from this comment, but I always like to platform everybody who takes the time to comment, or at least a lot of folks who do. And That's one of the beauties of having a relatively small and select audience as I do. I'm not getting hundreds and hundreds of comments for every program. So here's Ed, and I don't know Ed, but Ed, thank you. Listening to you, by the way, is like watching paint dry. Get to the point. Well, we'll try. I'll do a little bit better. I'll do my best. I always try to take into account.
He's trying to tell you something.
Comments.
I could tell that.
He's not sugarcoating it.
Trying to help.
He's not sugarcoating it. He is really just bringing it right to bear. So, Ed, thank you for that suggestion. And we're going to move it along. One of the nice things about having a guest is I can perhaps move a little bit quicker, and I don't have to think about everything myself, including coming up with topics. So Arlen, this is kind of an all Arlen program, although I will insert, in terms of the topics, of course, I'll insert my own views. But Arlen, let's start with this slide here. I think this kind of comports with what you wanted to address. So let me see if I can get up here. This is from... let's see. I don't know. It refers to a Morning Consult poll. Tell us about this, Arlen.
Okay. Well, I know that Joe Biden has been not doing that well in the polls. People wonder why, and it seems like the polls are saying that a lot of people are concerned about his age, that he's just too old, and that's a big factor in why he's about neck and neck with Donald Trump as far as who's on top in the presidential polls. So, he should be doing better. I mean, he's really done a reasonably good job, and Trump is in so much trouble in so many ways, and especially legal. So, it's a factor. It's something that we have to address, and, the Democrats have to figure out what they want to do about it.
Well, what do you recommend they do about it?
Well, I think they should certainly consider if there's somebody else that would be an effective candidate that's younger and more vibrant. I haven't seen anybody step up. I mean, Gavin Newsom would probably like to do it, but I don't see or hear anybody else that, is ready to replace Biden.
Well, Arlen, don't you think that it would almost be a suicidal move at this point for the Democrats to try to replace Biden? I mean, he's certainly not a president that I admire. I would agree with you. He could be worse. I certainly accept that. But, my concerns certainly include his age. But if he were 50 years old, I probably still wouldn't vote for him based on his record. I know that probably is a complete shock to you because and we've discussed this, you seem to have trouble fathoming why people would even consider a vote for anyone other than Biden in this election. And I understand that. I understand that perspective, but I don't view him as having been bringing improvements. I don't see him as helping improve our country. I think that's my major thought, my major feelings about Biden. But, the fact is he has been president for 3 years now, or he will be in January. There have been some, I think relatively effective from as far as that goes in terms of passing legislation. How could the Democrats even consider at this point replacing him?
Yeah, it would be difficult, and I'm starting to fudge a little bit because before I would have said don't bother replacing him, but now I'm thinking something is very wrong here. When Trump and Biden are just about equal in the polling, and Trump is having such a horrible year, and Biden has done relatively well, then something is wrong and it needs to be fixed.
Do you think it could be, and we always debate this, do you think it just could be the policies that the Democratic Party is promoting are not broadly popular? And I would throw in there because, and I know there's always debate, maybe some people think they're not far enough to the right. I would argue that their economic policies just simply haven't made a dent in inequality, poverty, and economic anxiety.
Well, part of the problem, I think, is that people don't really know what he's done. They're not completely aware. When it comes to the economy, people notice the food prices are high, gas prices are still high. And even though they're coming down, people think it's Biden's fault that we have inflation. But ultimately, Hal, I think it has to do with
media. I think there's a lot of right-wing media that just hammers and hammers and hammers the Democrats. And, the left wing, the MSNBCs and all that cannot compete with that. And I think the more objective media sources are not, pushing the leftward tilt. So it's, the right-wing media definitely is. They're pushing and they're trying to destroy Biden and trying to, get rid of the Democrats so they could be back in power.
Well, as you can see from the slide here, I'm just going to show you for a second as I scratch my ear, because some people might find that less appealing to see. Biden is not the only candidate in the race who is older. I mean, he is the oldest, but Trump will be 78 next year on election day, assuming he's the candidate. It looks like he will be at this point. That's 9 years older than Ronald Reagan was when he was first elected in 1980, when people were saying he was too old. And if you recall, he had that the joke about he won't hold his opponent's youth and inexperience against him. So,
and let's not forget,
or that was in 84, I guess. Yeah, go ahead.
At the very end of his presidency, people were talking about maybe he was getting some Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah.
And certainly don't need that.
No, and I will say this, comparing Trump and Biden in terms of alertness, it does appear that Biden is more likely the one who's having the senior moments, not Trump at this point. Trump does seem a little more vibrant. In fact, Bernie, who is, I believe, even older than Biden, seems more, I would say, vigorous, shall we say. Biden does appear older, but if the problem is, as you say, and I'm not disputing this, I mean, certainly the media that we live in today is incredibly partisan. I would say both the Democratic and Republican parties have media in their pocket. I would not say either side is progressive. In fact, both, I would say, are corporate. That said, if one of the big stumbling blocks that Biden faces is a very oppositional media, that wouldn't change, would it, if it was a Gavin Newsom or some other candidate? The Fox and Newsmax have certainly found ways to demonize any candidate for using whatever tools are at their disposal.
Yeah, we just don't really know how another candidate would do. We do know that Biden is not, living up to what he could be doing. And when you have a situation where both Trump and Biden are relatively tied, I mean that's disaster for this country, because if somehow Trump won, or even a Republican like Trump, this country would be in a very bad mess.
Yeah, I would argue we already are in that mess, and Biden hasn't done enough to extricate us from that. But, we can save that for another day. Certainly, if you're a Democrat, if you are a Biden supporter, you are somewhat flummoxed and perplexed by the polls at this point. You're watching Halitics, 240-363-7190. Would love to talk to you. I know so many folks watch the videos after the program has already been put in the can, and that's great. I want as many viewers as possible and commenters like our friend Ed there, but I love to talk to you as well, just like we love talking to Arlen. So if you can join us live, please do so right now. 240-363-7190. Let us know what you think. 240-363-7190. I mean, I will say this, Arlen, we're so polarized in this country. There's so much anger on both sides, and so much contempt, I think, that both sides have for each other, that even a true progressive populist, someone like a Bernie, would really struggle to appeal to working class Republicans. I think that would be very challenging. And it's unfortunate, because we had that moment in 2008 when Obama got, well over 50% of the vote. He defeated a war hero who was widely considered as relatively centrist. I'm talking about, of course, John McCain. He did have some unforced errors, including his choice of running mate. But there was a moment there where the American people really seemed ready for change. And I would argue that we punted, we failed. Obama simply did not promote truly progressive populist policies and lost a lot of voters that we could that could have gotten behind a real push towards economic justice and peace as well in this country.
Oh, Hal, we have that constant argument, I guess. I don't think it's that easy to convince the American people of the progressive policies that somebody like Obama or Biden could do. The Republican Party and all the MAGA people have gotten so strong, and then they just block everything that the Democrats would want to do. So that certainly makes it difficult. I would like to see more progressive policies too, but I just don't see it.
Well, how do you explain Obama's, a landslide for modern times in 2008 if the American public weren't looking for a real change from George W. Bush? Obama campaigned against, as an opponent of the Iraq War. Obama campaigned on a universal health care platform. And he also, said that he was really going to try to build up the heartland. And he won Indiana, he won Iowa, he won Ohio. How do you explain that if the American public is, as you claim, so right-wing and so at least such a significant portion is against any kind of populist agenda?
Okay, I'll tell you why Obama why it didn't extend beyond Obama. Obama won because of his charisma. Compared to Biden and Trump, I mean, Obama had 10 times more charisma than those guys. And I think people responded to it. They thought, hey, this is an honest guy with a nice family and everything's good. And and so they voted for him. But there hasn't been anybody since that can do what Obama did or has anywhere near the charisma.
Yeah, I think that it's certainly true that the two Democratic presidents before Joe Biden were both very appealing politicians, attractive, young, well-spoken, intelligent, no question. Bill Clinton and Barack Obama are both masterful politicians. But I guess maybe we disagree, I think policy ultimately is king. And neither one pursued policies that improved the quality of life of the American worker or the American middle class. Indeed, I would argue that both made life harder. The policies that they pursued were detrimental to the quality of life of the American worker and the rapidly shrinking middle class. And because of that, those incredibly important demographic groups fell prey to demagogues, to nationalist rhetoric, to hyper-patriotic fervor.
Yeah, I will agree with you that the Democrats have not done well with working class people, with union people. They're doing worse with blacks and Hispanics. They've got, they're not pursuing, like you say, a little bit more progressive policies, and maybe they should, but like I say, it's very, very difficult because there's so much opposition to anything that's different than what the MAGA people want.
All right. Well, the topic of today's program is venerable or just plain old, or I used decrepit, obsolete are all good terms. Consistent with this topic is our caller. It's great to talk to you, Carl, an old friend from Monterey. How are you, Carl? Great to talk to you.
Fire your screener, please.
How
I
so?
have no idea.
What's the problem?
Okay,
You're on. We're talking to you. Couldn't you hear us just now when you were
well,
connected?
I muted my TV. I have no idea how I ran across this. I was just going through the dial, and I ended up on you here. But how nice to see you. I mean, we needed another pretty face on TV.
Thank you. And you're
are
not
you
getting
an
it, but I appreciate that. No, this
Hi,
was
Carl.
Arlen. You want to complain about ageism, you go look right at Arlen's face. This was his topic, not mine.
Wait,
Well,
and Carl, you're a little bit older than I am, you have to admit.
I hate to wake you up and give the caller a chance here, but ageism happens to.
Oh, he's having a senior moment.
About ageism, you go look right.
Technical problems.
This was his topic, not mine.
I think that's.
I
We're hearing me in the background. Can you turn off your audio in the background? Don't worry about just. Yeah, I'm surprised.
I don't care what you say, but Hal.
Hal.
I mean, you sound like an ageist to me, Hal. Do you? Your lips are moving, but I don't hear you.
I think there's a delay on your end, so don't worry about what you see.
My end.
It's a delay on your end, right,
slow down.
Arlen? Because I see my lips
No.
and I hear me.
I don't know if you're familiar, Hal, with Carl's background, but he was in AM radio. He helped produce shows on KBC in Los Angeles.
In Los Angeles, big time, number one.
Yeah,
Number
there was
one
a
then,
great station.
number
Anyway,
one
well,
then,
not
and
now.
number one then.
Carl,
Yes.
Let's
this
not waste
went
this
downhill.
important time before the next commercial. I want to ask you, Hal, are you an ageist? You seem to think Biden is not qualified to be president because he's too old.
No, I don't think he's. I do think I do think 81 is too old to be president. I think it's a job that requires stamina.
Then.
Well,
Because
okay. I think we lose something as we move along. Yeah, I do believe that.
Well, you're talking to a guy who's in his middle earlies, as Bill Ballance used to call it, I think. But the point is, I am a senior citizen, and I'm losing some of my fastball. I never had much of a fastball myself, but but the fact is, he's really kind of sharp. I watch the news shows, and I heard a lot of people say he's really full of energy. Got a lot of, he's still pretty sharp. He has always stammered like a lot of us do. But, until he, and I see his gait, and he's old, but we used to admire wisdom in people. And he's got the experience, and he knows the way it works, aside from that idiot that the repugs are, pushing.
I don't think one should vote against Joe Biden because of his age. I think one should vote for the candidate that you like best, that you think will be the best president. So I wouldn't rule someone out. But in a primary, if there's a choice between two candidates that both have policies I find roughly equivalent, and one of them is an octogenarian and the other one is, under 65, I probably would vote for the younger candidate. So if you want to call that ageist, that's fair. Actually, Carl, I want to ask you this. Since you were in radio, and I never asked you this, and I certainly know you very well, I'm going to give you two names from LA radio, and I wonder if you knew either of them. Jimmy O'Neill, Bob Crane.
Oh, Bob Crane is a name that I was familiar with, and of course, he was Hogan's Heroes, right?
He was Hogan, but he started as an LA DJ, did he not?
He did indeed. He was, and I've heard the other name, but I didn't follow that. But do you listen to WOR out there and the Washington, talk? I mean, they still do talk radio out there, don't they?
We have our biggest station here by far is WTOP, which I understand is the number one billing radio station in the country, or at least they used to so promote themselves, which I was surprised they were bigger billers than WCBS or KCBS, I think is a bigger markets. They're bigger markets than DC, New York, Chicago, LA. But TOP does very well, but even here, Carl, they're struggling. They have laid off many of their senior anchors, and because it's an all news all the time station, they have a huge staff.
Well, it's a huge issue, the technology and the way it's all changing. And I was really lucky because I went to work at KABC just when the Dodgers went to the station. That was part of the reason I was at the right place at the right time. There's a lot of transition going on, and I slipped through the cracks, and I got to be a screener producer. And I loved the job, and I worked with Michael Jackson, and if you've probably heard, and Bill Balance and Dr. Laura, who's still on, I think, somewhere. I mean,
Yep.
Tony Grant, Ray Bremer, and I was just at the right place at the right time. This isn't about, well, maybe we were talking about old people, so let's make it about me. No, while we're talking about old people, let's talk about Arlen. He has become quite a pundit here. I watch him standing his ground a little bit.
He's a tough nut for me to crack. I've been trying for quite a while, and he's got a shell
why are
like
you
a
trying
walnut.
to crack him? I thought you were a progressive. I thought when you came in and did KXR, I mean, I went to work for you in a way. I was trying to sell.
You did.
Spots.
Yes.
Yeah, you know how many I sold. Anyway,
was there the zero or was there one? I don't remember. It's been a while, Carl.
I don't know, but I never got a paycheck. I'll say that. But I loved what you did, Hal.
It was
and
all,
I want to tell you,
thank you.
I admire
Thank you.
what you did. I really do. You got up and you went and did it. You put your money where your mouth was. You went to the West Coast and you rode a recumbent bike through that tunnel every morning at 5 a.m. I mean, you did it that way, and I admire you for
Got
that.
a few tickets, but that's okay.
Got one ticket.
I don't mean to tinkle all over you and embarrass you.
You're not embarrassing me. I appreciate that. I thank you. I love doing it. It was exactly what I wanted to, and I wish that my only real regret, Carl, Arlen, is that we weren't able to, blow up and be very successful. Maybe some of it was timing. I think there was a significant issue there. Radio is just on the decline. I mean, I got in at the end. I was in at the end.
It was right there, exactly right. It was timing. The whole thing was shifting over to the internet, and it was becoming ubiquitous. And but I think that instead of regretting that, that's something that you probably will, remember very fondly.
Oh, I had
even though it had a lot of hardship.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was the greatest job I ever had, for sure. But I love doing this too. And, this is fun. And who knows, maybe this will blow up and we'll get where we were trying to get before with this, Carl.
Yeah,
Anything else? I don't want to cut you off. I want to move. We've got about 20 minutes left of the program.
You, Hal. But listen, the fact,
Yep, you can.
I'm off the treadmill, Bill. Billy Sunshine, who I was a good friend with at one time, he used to, I thought, react when I'd say, I don't want to call talk radio anymore. I don't want to hold on. We have one of the worst human beings. I mean, I really don't like to say it that way much, but it's KSCO here, which is a great old-time radio station in San Jose. But this guy is a right-wing, and he, I don't know what to say. And they put on, what is his name? The guy, Arlen, you remember, the guy that...
Alex Jones?
Alex Jones, I'm sorry, I do remember. But, nouns and pronouns and people and places, I don't even try and focus on that anymore. I want to move on instead of getting stuck on words. And I never had that great gift and you've got some talent, Hal, still. I hope you do blow up. But I already blew up.
All right. So, Carl, before we let you go, how do you like the new format? I mean, you get to see us. I mean, maybe I got to find put a mask on or something. But what's your sense of doing this on video?
Well, I like intelligent conversation, of course. It's pretty hard just to, do a lot of heavy duty production, and you kind of prove that when you were doing KRXA. But the fact is that I like intelligent conversation. And I don't understand how you try to be objective and all that, but I know you're a very intelligent guy, you're a lawyer and all that, but how are not part of with the Trump and the MAGA and this lying that is going on and that I have to witness here. And
But everyone lies, Carl. It's not.
I don't lie, Hal.
Well, everyone. Okay. Well, you're not running for president. You're not running for president. But I will say that of the people running for president, there is a guy who doesn't lie, and that's the one I support, Dr. Cornel West.
They all have to fudge a little bit. That's one of the difficult things about politics. You were talking about Obama, and you had the audacity to say he didn't get anything done. What about Obamacare?
I didn't say he didn't get anything done.
You left the impression that he was very.
What I said was that what he didn't make life better for poor, struggling, and working people, and I stand by that.
Well, I don't agree with you.
Okay.
And
we can
disagree.
He
had the Tea Party. And he had
60 senators for a cup of coffee. He had 60 senators. He had a veto-proof majority in the Senate.
Arlen and I went to see this, I remember going to see that. What was his name? Michael Moore, and that film about the poisoned water in Michigan. And that was the only time I had a negative feeling about Obama, because he seemed to be playing ball with and compromising against the general will. But, the fact is that politics is a messy game, a dirty game, and they do lie and they have to make terribly hard choices. Biden is good at that. Biden is the right guy for that kind of thing, of an intelligent, or I don't even know how intelligent, but at least he's a very, very practical guy of getting things done. And it's sad that he's a victim of all of this abuse by Fox and anybody that piles on him like that. And when he trips and he stumbles over his feet, and even, age is a factor, but you dance with a girl that you brought to the dance, right?
Well, look, it's a choice, right? It's a choice. No candidate will ever be perfect. Every election is a choice. I do have a litmus test. In the end, my litmus test is, are they going to make things, or have they made things better? Will they try to make things better? Will their policies improve the quality of life for poor, struggling, and working people? That is my litmus test. If the answer to that is no, they're not, then my general response is I'm looking for somebody else.
I'm going to leave you to the right guy, Arlen, who knows this stuff pretty doggone well. And thank
Carl,
you for
it's great to talk to you. Please don't be a stranger. Hope to talk to you again soon. And I really appreciate the call. You're welcome.
Good luck.
Thanks for calling.
All right. And that opens up the line, 240-363-7190. You wanted to talk, Arlen. Go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance for the last 10 minutes, but a couple things. The lies was mentioned. There's a lot of lying by politicians, but I think Donald Trump has brought it to a new level. He's his lies are just historic. I don't think he's ever even told the truth once since he's been president and after. So that's one thing to think about. And I guess
I think that's fair. I think that's fair, Arlen. By the way, I want to just give you that. I was thinking a lot about Biden. There's a lot of his policies I don't like, but I don't feel like he's dishonest the way Trump is dishonest. So yes, that's fair.
He is an honest, moral person, and certainly Trump is not. And by the way, another thing about KRXA and kind of, went downhill because like everything else in AM radio at that time, one thing that right wing had an advantage was Rush Limbaugh was well established and people liked to listen to him. And there were some copycat right wingers, tried to be like Rush, and the left just didn't have anything to compete with that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But I would also say on the left in general, I think it just hasn't worked. I mean, talk radio, just whatever, I know you quote numbers from Talkers Magazine and supposedly, allegedly, Hartman and Stephanie Miller have these large audiences. I think those numbers are very dubious. If you drive across the country, as we both have, you will struggle to find any progressive voices or any democratic voices on talk radio. And the right wingers are in complete control of that medium. So I don't accept the numbers that Harrison puts out, but maybe there's some accuracy there. They're struggling on just a handful of stations.
You're right. You go through the red states, and you're not going to hear anything that sounds blue.
Even the blue states. I mean, California has far more conservative talk than progressive, as does New York, for that matter.
Well, the right wing has always had the advantage when it comes to radio. That their people seem to love to get on it and yell.
It does seem like a conservative medium, no question. The Nazis really exploited radio. Goebbels understood its power, and they manipulated people using radio. Let's show now. I want to just say something that Carl said. I think age is like, in a way, climate crisis. Just because you're older doesn't mean you're not able to perform well in an intellectual job. Once you're at 45, 46, we know you can't play in the NFL. The exception that proved the rule was Tom Brady. I don't think Tom Hartman ever played NFL football, but the exception to the rule is Tom Brady. So yes, you at some point at what many of us would consider a relatively young age, you cannot be a professional athlete. As you get older, you can still do many things that relate to the intellect. But it's like the climate crisis. One hurricane does not prove it. But as every weather event isn't necessarily due to the climate crisis, but they're more frequent. Extreme weather is more frequent. Hot waves, droughts are more frequent as the climate crisis worsens, as we've seen it worsen. Similarly, just because you have a moment where you can't remember something, or you freeze up, or you nod off, that doesn't prove that you're older, that you're being impacted by age. But those incidents are much more likely to happen as one gets older, Arlen.
Yeah, and it was mentioned before that Joe Biden has always had problems like this. He's never been a smooth talker. He's stuttered, and he's had problems like that throughout his whole career. So I don't think it's necessarily age, but the way the right wing hammers him about the age, people are looking and looking at every single word and with a microscope, and that then he suffers because of it.
True, but I will say this. I saw Biden speak in 2012 thanks to our friend Sean Bagley, I think you got to go too, maybe not, when Biden spoke and I think it was 2012, maybe it was 2008, but I think it was 2012. He spoke in Carmel, and he was very good. I mean, I was impressed. I thought he spoke well, articulately. He was, that was 11 years ago. So he was 70, and he was he was on top of his game then. I don't know that he would be as effective today. I believe he would not be.
He's had a great career. He's done a lot. He's really been effective in so many ways, and I'm not sure that he's not just as good now as he was then. From what I see, he's still getting things done now, and when I see him on TV, he seems to be able to be articulate and convince.
Well, this is where he got a lot of bad things done in the past, and he still is. So that's where we can just 100% disagree, or 180 degrees. Let me play this video here of a senior, what I would call more than a senior moment. I played this last week, Arlen. I think this is scary, actually.
What are my thoughts about what?
Running for re-election in 2026.
That's
So you see he freezes there,
Did you hear the
Arlen.
question, Senator?
He just
Running
can't
for re-election
really.
in 2026?
He just lost it completely. It's probably a mini stroke, I think, is what we would call that. Right. I'll stop it. It's frightening. What should be the response, Arlen? And what? I mean, there is no response, right? He said, his doctor said he's fit to continue to serve, but what should we be able to do as a society when we have leaders in this condition?
I think we could all see that he has trouble and big trouble, and it seems to be caused by medical issues, which nobody's really saying what they are. I mean, I've heard a lot about, well, it's because he had a concussion, and this happens to people who have concussions. But I think most of us see that there's something considerably wrong with Mitch, and he probably should think about stepping down, just like Dianne Feinstein should be thinking of stepping down.
Well, should we have a procedure in place for folks in this condition where they are? I mean, I don't know how we would do it, right? How could you? But
Well,
do you
Nikki
support
Haley-
that?
Nikki Haley has some ideas, and I think you have some clips of her, talking about what can we do if we have, politicians that are old and, not getting the job done. So,
Well, I'm going to play this clip, but I think I got the wrong clip, Arlen. I apologize. This is Haley talking about raising the age for Social Security qualification. So she's saying people who are seniors, what we now consider senior citizens, should still be doing their jobs for another 10 years until they're in their mid 70s. So I'll play it, but then I'll ask you to kind of synopsize, if that's a verb, what the clip you were thinking. But this clip, I think, tells you what we should not consider her for president.
That said they wouldn't touch entitlements, including Trump. And any candidate that says they're not going to touch entitlements means that they're basically going to go into office and then leave America bankrupt. Social Security is going to go bankrupt in 10 years. Medicare is going to go bankrupt in 8. So the way we deal with it is we don't touch anyone's retirement or anyone who's been promised in, but we go to people like my kids in their 20s when they're coming into the system, and we say the rules have changed. We change retirement age to reflect life expectancy. Instead of cost of living increases, we do it based on inflation. We limit the benefits on the wealthy, and we expand Medicare Advantage plans.
All right, so those are all terrible ideas, Arlen.
Yeah.
But
we don't need her for president. You're
we
right.
certainly don't, and we certainly don't need to expand Medicare disadvantage, which is just more privatization and costs continue to rise. What did she say that you wanted to share with us that I didn't play?
One thing she said was anybody over 75 should take some kind of a mental test, intelligence test to see if they're sharp or not. And in fact, she said she'd even go as far as, lowering it to 35 years old. Everybody we need to know that these people are fit. She also said they should, disclose all their income, which is a good idea, and they should disclose their medical and, intelligence situation.
Well, I'm good with the income requirement for sure. Some of the others I'm concerned with. I think that there's intelligence tests have a history often of racism or alleged racism. I think that if groups tend to underperform on those tests, they will rightly be concerned about that. I don't know that history demonstrates that the smartest individual is necessarily the best leader, the best president. I think there are other characteristics like compassion, empathy that may be more important. I'm not sure where I come down on tests like that.
I think at least basic intelligence, that you're aware of things. I remember when Trump took that test, he thought he did great, but it was just simply a test to see if he has Alzheimer's or not. And he thought he was so proud that he did so well. But I think we at least should have a minimum standard of, what we can expect from a president, that he knows what day it is, that he knows what country he's in, the basics. And if somebody is having trouble with that kind of stuff, we should know about it and deal with it.
So a cognition test, basically.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's fine. Yeah, and then how would you would there be a procedure for removing the president or the U.S. senator or the Supreme Court justice if they were found to be in a state of dementia?
Well, there should be, and there probably will be. And we even have something right now. What is it, the 25th Amendment, where they could take the president out of office. So, there are ways to do that. And I think if it's well thought out, it would be helpful.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Anything you wanted to add before we move on to our next topic, which also was selected by, well, I floated it by Arlen and he green lighted it. So do you want to, anything else on the seniority of our elected officials?
Yeah, I never thought anything about age. I don't know anything about that, being old. So let's go on to something else.
Well, actually, though, now that we got back, see, I just want to get back to your idea about replacing Biden. Do you think, because this will kind of circle back, I'm not a fan of Biden's, but I mean, would you support maybe a younger candidate at least entering the primary to see whether they would do well, like a Gavin Newsom or someone of that ilk?
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea. We should at least explore, what could happen. Right now, we don't know. We just have Joe Biden, and we know he's not doing as well as he should be doing. So, if somebody else was in there and gave it a shot, then I think we would learn a lot.
Wouldn't you be concerned?
Kennedy, though.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Not Robert F. Kennedy or Cuervo.
Right, but they're not. I mean, they're not on a short list, right? Of people that you would think of as even qualified. Neither Williamson nor RFK Jr. has been elected to any office, as far as I'm aware. They have no history in office. I don't think that rules them out. I mean, I'm supporting Dr. West, and he hasn't either. But he's also not running the Democratic primary. But aren't you concerned? Because the argument goes, when a sitting president runs for re-election and faces a primary challenge, they tend to lose. And a great example of that, of course, is Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, but I think it's something that we have to explore, because if we don't, then and we go in with Biden the way he is, and he doesn't perform very well, and he loses to Trump, then we've obviously made a horrible mistake. So, another thing, I just can't understand why there isn't somebody really good that's a senator, a representative, a governor. There's got to be a few of those at least that could be effective running for president, and I don't know where they are.
Do you have anyone in mind?
No one in particular, but I should probably look at that and see. Yeah, that's something I'm going to explore.
Well, I know that the Pennsylvania governor Shapiro is popular right now. People have floated his name, but he's only been governor for less than 2 years, so it's not as though he. Is that, and I forget now Shapiro's first name. It's not Richard. But he is relatively popular. But not for two. He's only been governor for 2 years. It's hard to really come up with one across the country. I'm trying to myself. So,
but when you think about it, how there's dozens of governors, there are dozens of senators, there are multi-dozens in the House of Representatives. Somebody's got to be out there who has experience and knowledge and could do the job.
All right, well, that will lead us to our next topic, which is who's running for U.S. Senate in the Golden State. And I've got a little slide up here. Let's see if I can get this before I'm going to switch it. But I put these images up there. The current senior senator, and senior indeed she is, Dianne Feinstein there on the left. And that's a pretty good current picture of her. But she's really, talk about losing some of that fastball. She's clearly, I don't think she's compos mentis at this point. It does not appear so, Arlen.
Yeah, she's just like McConnell. She really needs to go.
And she's a lot older than McConnell. I mean, I think McConnell's at an age where some people can still serve. he's not one of them. Feinstein close to 90. I guess we've had senators, that old bird from there was a Virginia bird and there was also a West Virginia bird, Robert Byrd. He seemed to hold it together. I will say that Robert Byrd seemed to hold it together into his 90s. So you've got Feinstein. She is definitely stepping down. You've got, and I put the three, probably California viewers know who these are, but Barbara Lee from Oakland, Katie Porter from Orange County or the OC, and there's Adam Schiff from Lockheed Martin. Who do you like there, Arlen, and where do you think this race is going?
Well, I'm really happy that we have some good choices because for sure it's going to be a Democrat. The Republicans are not going to be able to compete with these folks. But and there's a couple of good progressive ones there, like Barbara Lee and Katie Porter. That I think would be very good senators. And, I admire Schiff, as far as the investigation into January 6th, he's done a great job. I've heard he's not as progressive overall as the other two. So, he would be maybe my third choice. But I really do like Barbara Lee and Katie Porter. They're sharp people.
As I looked at recent polling, now there's going to be a top two election in, I guess, is it June that you'll hold it, Arlen? I'm not sure. And then the general is in November. I think if one of the candidates gets over 50%, now for national elections, you have to have it on the in November. So I think there's going to have to be a top two election no matter what in November, but I'm not certain. Maybe if you get over 50%, they don't even have to run in November. Do you know that, Arlen?
I'm not sure about that, Hal. I don't know.
The polling that I saw had Schiff leading for a while, but and Porter second, but Barbara Lee has been coming up strong, and I think Schiff's support may be evanescing. I certainly would like it to be Barbara Lee, Arlen, and I do think Adam Schiff, his personality is grating. He is very reactive. I don't know if you've seen him. He lashes into people who ask him questions he doesn't like. This is a guy whose main campaign funds have tended to come from defense contractors, as you can see from my little joke there, Lockheed Martin. I think it would be very unfortunate if Feinstein, who has been a supporter of the military-industrial complex, should be replaced by someone of similar ilk.
Well, I think one reason that Adam Schiff is doing so well in the polls, if he is because he's on TV a lot. He gets a lot of exposure, and he's got a lot of money, and so I'm sure he'll be right up there near the top. And I'm hoping that Porter or Lee will be right up there with him, but we don't know.
Does that trouble you, Arlen, that Schiff is on? I mean, I've seen Katie Porter on. I've seen them all. Right, I've seen Katie Porter on TV quite a bit, maybe less Barbara Lee, but I think she gets plenty of media exposure as well. But you're right, Schiff makes it on the Sunday afternoon shows or Sunday morning shows, depending on when they broadcast them in your area, Meet the Press, The Week in Review, etc. This Week in Washington. Does that worry you a little bit? Just as you were saying, Trump gets a lot of, and the Republicans seem to get a lot of favorable attention. Do you think that Schiff's the popularity is in part because he is corporate? I mean, he's corporate backed, and he represents a perspective that the big media likes.
Well, one reason he gets a lot of exposure is because of his involvement in the January 6th insurrection hearings in the House, and that. So every time they're talking about things like that, he's more often going to be on TV than the others. He has the knowledge and the experience about all of that.
But if he were talking about, say, something that really has more impact on most Americans' day-to-day lives, whether it was the need for single-payer health coverage, Medicare for all, or for peace, he would probably get much less exposure, don't you think?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I haven't seen him talk about anything else other than
right. So doesn't that suggest that the media is again framing issues? I think this is beyond peradventure. It's not really an argument, but it's very troubling because candidates who are outspoken on the left, truly on the left, are not going to get national audiences, for those perspectives, even if they're very popular.
Yeah, I'm hoping that as the election gets closer, that we'll see more of Barbara Lee and Katie Porter. I mean, Barbara Lee's had a tremendous history. I think she was the only one that voted against, what was it, the Iraq War, the Afghanistan War?
I think that's right. She's been one of the few real voices for peace.
The only one of one of those, the only one in the Congress. So, she's got a great history. She's proven herself, and she would be a great candidate. And Katie Porter is very well spoken and very intelligent and very progressive. So she would be a great candidate. And yeah, Schiff, I don't know.
Schiff is from the LA area, by the way. So I always wanted to get to this. So Schiff is actually, despite my Lockheed Martin joke or the Mike military, he's from the LA region. Katie Porter, south of there, Orange County. Barbara Lee, Oakland, the San Francisco Bay Area. So all three of the major population centers. I guess San Diego County not really represented, but the Orange County, the OC just north of there. Is this a problem? The Democrats are complete control of the California coast, at least from the Mexican line now, and with Orange County going Democratic, right? I mean, she took a Republican seat, did Katie Porter. Is this a problem for the Democrats in California that they're so powerful, so strong along the coast, which are the population centers, but, in the valley, shall we say, in Fresno and even probably Sacramento, or certainly north of Sacramento, they're an afterthought for many voters.
Well, we certainly need more exposure with these candidates, and I hope that there will be, because people have to know who they're voting for. But I'm really happy that the Democrats have done so well in California and really have no real competition. They've got a super majority, I believe, in the House, Senate, and House of Representatives in the state. So I'm really happy about that, and we've got some good choices, I think, among those three. So I'm pleased.
All right, Arlen, we have one more topic, but I'm going to save it because we're just about out of time. I do like what you wanted to discuss, and maybe we can do that next week if you'll join me this Monday, because I think it'll be evergreen. Sadly, basically just to let folks know, I won't tease it too much, Senator from Alabama, Tommy Tuberville, former Auburn University football coach, is holding up basically universally agreed upon appointments to the military services, including the Navy and the Army. And this is a big problem for them. And he's doing it all because he doesn't want service people to have access to reproductive rights, to reproductive choice.
I just don't understand how he can get away with that. Why Mitch McConnell or even Schumer, who's the majority leader in the Senate, can't do anything about it. But the Senate rules are very arcane and very ineffective, and we can see the problem right now.
Arlen, thank you so much. It's always great to chat with you. You make my life a lot easier speaking to you and bringing up great topics. Look forward to speaking again this Monday, and I hope I gave you enough time for your views. I know you felt maybe when Carl was on, you got a little less airtime, but I do the best I can.
Yeah.
All right, I'll let you get into
I'm very, very pleased to have been on today, and I will be here next week.
And I love the new headset. I think it sounds really good. I'm hearing you really nice and clear.
It's so nice to get these technical issues ironed out.
All right, we'll talk again soon. I'll be back tomorrow. Arlen, again, thank you. And folks, have a great afternoon, or whatever time it is where you are. And there are your candidates one more time.